The baby isn't yours. Doesn't matter. Have it. I'll raise it. You don't deserve to be its father. That's fine. I can be whatever it needs me to be. Listening to my own words, Olivia Miller and her best friend just stared, stunned. Olivia was my college girlfriend. We made plans, marriage, right after graduation. Today marked exactly 1 month since we tossed our caps in the air. It was also the first time I'd seen her since then. And here she was, holding a prenatal report, telling me flat out the baby wasn't mine. It belonged to her high school sweetheart, the one that got away, her perfect guy. Her best friend even chimed in that if Olivia's old flame hadn't gone abroad back then, she never would have ended up with me in the first place. This perfect guy, gone for 4 years, had suddenly reappeared the very day Olivia graduated. I didn't need a crystal ball to figure out what Olivia had been up to during this past month of silence. The only reason she was standing in front of me now, her perfect guy had vanished again. Of course, Olivia had no idea where he'd gone, but I did. Her so-called perfect guy had found himself a new sugar mama and skipped the country with her. 3 years from now, he'd be locked up for fraud, theft, and aggravated assault. That's right. I was reborn. Reborn, back to this exact day. The day I first found out Olivia was pregnant with another man's child in my previous life. Last time, hearing this news shattered me. I wanted to break up with her on the spot. But Olivia had cried, those perfect, heart-wrenching tears, and I'd caved. Her best friend was right there too, fanning the flames, saying stuff like, if you love her, you love all of her. Because of the 4 years I'd invested in Olivia, I softened. I told her to get an abortion, and I'd pretend nothing happened. At first, she refused, fighting me tooth and nail. But I stood firm, even getting her parents involved. The pressure from all sides finally got to her, and she did it. I genuinely kept my word, buried the past, and married Olivia. But in 3 years together, we never conceived. Olivia told me it was because of the abortion. Seeing her cry silently day after day, I actually started to feel guilty. So I doted on her, gave her all my tenderness. That same year, a news story went viral. Some American pretty boy, a kept man, had shacked up with a wealthy foreign woman. He got caught cheating with her assistant, and then evidence surfaced of him stealing from her, defrauding her, even domestic abuse. He was sentenced, and this pretty boy, he was Olivia's perfect guy. The night Olivia saw that news, I collapsed. Lying in bed, waiting for death, I begged Olivia to call 911. All I got was her cold, cruel smile. That's when I learned the truth. The reason we hadn't conceived in 3 years wasn't the abortion. It was because she'd been secretly taking birth control pills every day, and she'd been lacing my food with ingredients that combined acted as a slow poison. That's what caused my collapse. I'll never forget the hideous snarl on her face as she shrieked. It was you. You killed my baby with him. Now he's arrested. It must be your fault too. It has to be you. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. Ha ha ha. That shrill, piercing voice still echoed in my ears. For me, it had all happened just 10 minutes ago. And now I was reborn. Olivia and her best friend, Chloe, had turned their backs, their voices hushed, but I could still hear them. Chloe said, Olivia, how did you manage to train Ben like this in 4 years? Even a total simp wouldn't go this far, right? Willingly playing the cuckold. I knew Olivia was just as curious, but the more Chloe said, the more it puffed up her ego. She even boasted, what do you know? It's called charm. For years, and I've got Ben completely wrapped around my little finger. Well, this way at least my baby with him can grow up healthy and strong. Chloe actually sounded a little like she was sticking up for me. Isn't this a bit too unfair to Ben? What's unfair? Olivia rolled her eyes. He chose this. I didn't force him. No, they weren't wrong. Chloe and Olivia were both right. I was willingly playing the cuckold. It was my choice. Olivia hadn't forced me. But was I doing this because I was afraid of reliving the horrors of my past life? No, absolutely not. If that were the case, I'd be spitting in the face of whatever cosmic force gave me this second chance. I was going to get my revenge on her, on Olivia, and I wouldn't kill her. I'd make her life a living hell. Olivia and Chloe turned back around. I quickly wiped the expression from my face, the one Olivia must never see. Unexpectedly, Chloe looked at me with a flicker of pity in her eyes. That caught me off guard. In my past life, I remembered her constantly telling me to love Olivia unconditionally, to forgive and forget. Though, come to think of it, she did go quiet after I brought up the abortion, didn't she? I couldn't quite recall. Besides, getting back at her was a secondary objective. My main target was Olivia. Olivia now had that pathetic, wronged look on her face, even squeezing out a couple of tears. The sight of her, looking so tragically beautiful, reminded me of how she'd melted my resolve last time. But now my heart was ice. I listened as Olivia said to me, "Thank you, Ben. I never knew you loved me this much. You're such a good guy." On cue, I stepped forward and gently pulled Olivia into an embrace. Stroking her long hair, I said softly, "It's okay, Olivia. You've been through a lot. Don't worry. We said we'd get married after graduation. I'll take care of you now." Olivia seemed genuinely moved by my tender tone. I felt her arms wrap tightly around my back. My shirt grew damp. She was really crying. Was she crying over the unfairness of her fate, or was she genuinely touched by my tenderness? If it was the latter, it meant my plan was about to succeed. I told Olivia to go home first, saying I needed to prepare a few things. The next day, I picked her up and took her to see a house, a sprawling 3,200 square foot place. Holding Olivia, I stood before the massive picture window and said, "We're getting married soon. I want to buy this place, make it our home." Really, Olivia sounded thrilled. But then, a split second later, suspicion clouded her face. She whispered, "But I just graduated. I don't have much money." This was no time for Olivia to worry about such things. I puffed out my chest, playing the capable boyfriend. Who said anything about our sweet Olivia paying? "Don't worry, it's all on me." Really, this time, the surprise in Olivia's voice was pure joy. "Thank you, Ben, you're the best." She kept handing me those good guy cards, but they couldn't change what was in my heart. I led Olivia into the master bedroom, pointing to a corner. "We'll put a crib there. We'll baby-proof the whole room. Make it super soft so your baby's safe. And it has to be near my side of the bed, because you'll be exhausted after giving birth. The baby crying at night shouldn't wake you. I'll start learning all about childcare right now. Don't worry, I'll be a great dad." And I acted excited, guiding Olivia through the enormous house, painting a vivid picture of our future. Even Olivia joined in my fantasy, and every request she made, I agreed to, making her smile brighter and brighter. It was getting late, and I hadn't even bought the house yet. But Olivia's arm was linked tighter and tighter through mine. In her words, the baby had become our baby. In that moment, she seemed to have forgotten that the child in her belly belonged to that other man. This was exactly the effect I wanted. Seeing the time was ripe, I decided to lay it on thicker. I pulled out a bank card and pressed it into Olivia's hand. As she looked at me, puzzled, I said, "This is for you. Call it an early wedding gift. $30,000. I know we can't plan the wedding right now because of your condition, but I promise to marry you, and I will. So take this. I want you to feel secure." I fought back the venom rising in my chest, forcing my voice to be incredibly gentle, my gaze full of deep affection. It worked perfectly. Olivia stared into my eyes, her pupils trembling. She glanced down at the card in her hand, her other hand instinctively going to her belly. She cried, tears streaming down her face, her voice shaking. Why are you so good to me? He's not even your child." Hearing those words, a fresh wave of bitterness washed over me, but I controlled it, looking into her eyes and uttering the most insincere words. "Because I love you." "I'm sorry," Olivia sobbed, burying her face in my chest, repeating those two words over and over. I gently patted her back, a cold smirk playing on my lips, but my mouth kept spewing comfort. "You did nothing wrong. Don't ever say sorry. A girl like you shouldn't have to bear so much." Olivia cried even harder, so she completely missed the fact that I'd never actually given her the pin for that bank card. Olivia and I moved in together into a rental. As for the 3,200 square foot house, I never said we were buying it now. Every morning, I was up early to make Olivia a delicious breakfast. I'd squeeze toothpaste on her brush, lay out a fresh towel. I told Olivia she didn't need to work at all. She just needed to rest and take care of herself at home. If she felt up to it, she could go out with Chloe, her best friend, to take her mind off things. Making money was my job. So, I left home early every day. Work was one reason, but the other was to advance my plan. No matter how busy work was, I'd be home before 11 a.m. I had to make Olivia lunch. After watching her eat, I'd do the dishes, then immediately head out for my afternoon work. In the evenings, I'd rush home early again to prepare dinner for Olivia. At the dinner table, Olivia would eat the food I'd personally cooked, look at me with a blissful expression, and say things like, "You're so good to me." At night, I even insisted we sleep in separate rooms. She asked me why. I told her, "Olivia, you're just too beautiful. I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself at night, and that could harm the baby." To make my performance even more convincing, I'd often pretend I was about to kiss her. But just as Olivia closed her eyes, ready to meet my lips, I'd turn away, head into the bathroom, and douse myself with a cold shower. On weekends, I'd take Olivia out, shopping, movies. I perfectly embodied everything a devoted simp should do, lavishing it all on Olivia. I gave Olivia the happiest period of her life. The smiles on her face became more frequent. She smiled more in this short time than in the entire 4 years we'd been together before. One night, I overheard Olivia in her room on a video call with Chloe. "Is Ben really that good to you?" Chloe's voice from the phone sounded skeptical. Olivia, however, said proudly, "What's so good about it? Isn't this what a boyfriend should do? I told you, my charm is irresistible. I didn't even expect to be this happy with him willingly being my simp." Chloe, on the other end, didn't comment on Olivia's confidence. Instead, her voice was somewhat subdued as she said, "I still think it's a bit unfair to Ben. I actually feel kind of sorry for him now." Olivia paused for a moment. Standing outside the door, I couldn't see her expression, nor could I guess what she was thinking. But after 3 seconds, she said confidently, "What's there to be sorry about? You forgot this was his choice. But I'm pretty lucky too. My baby, and I found such a caring father. We'll definitely be happy in the future." Her tone, however, didn't seem as self-assured as it had been that first day. And what her best friend said next surprised me even more. I heard Chloe say, very seriously, "I think Ben's doing this because he genuinely loves you. You won't find another man like him in the world. I think it's time you started being good to Ben too." Olivia seemed to say nothing more after that, and I returned to my room. I never expected that the next morning, when I got up early as usual, I would find Olivia busy in the kitchen. I genuinely hadn't expected Olivia to take Chloe's words to heart. After all this time, was this the first time she'd woken up so early to make me breakfast? I feigned deep concern, pulling Olivia into my arms and murmuring, "Why are you up so early? You need to take care of yourself. Was my cooking not to your taste? I'm terrible. I'll learn. I'll study new recipes." The words felt disgusting in my own mouth. All those years of occasionally watching cheesy romantic dramas were finally paying off. But Olivia bought it completely. She nuzzled my chest with her soft hair and said, "Silly no, your food is the best I've ever had. I just saw how hard you're working and wanted to treat you too." Of course, no matter what Olivia said, I still used the excuse of protecting the baby in her womb to refuse her efforts. Was it because of that bastard child? Of course not. Everything from my past life was still vivid in my mind. What if she tried to poison me again? I had to be careful. But I hadn't anticipated Olivia's persistence. Though she stopped getting up early to cook breakfast, when I came home from my hard day's work, either lunch or dinner would be ready. Since it was already made, I couldn't say much. But to be safe, before eating anything, I would meticulously examine it for anything suspicious. It might seem paranoid, but once bitten, twice shy. Still, this was good news. I knew it was time to proceed to the next stage of my plan. That weekend, I very mysteriously tied a blindfold around Olivia's eyes. By now, Olivia trusted me completely, so she let me cover her eyes without protest. Along the way, she kept giggling and asking, "Ben, where are you taking me, all mysterious?" Another surprise? Olivia had guessed right. When I removed her blindfold, Olivia froze. Before her, dazzling under the lights, were rows upon rows of designer wedding gowns. Olivia was stunned. She turned to me, her breath catching. "Ben, this is—" I gently took Olivia's hand, smiling. "Of course, we're here to pick out our wedding attire. This is the shop we found together back in our junior year of college, remember? I promised you. After the baby is born, we'll get married." Olivia cried again, tears of joy. Naturally, my words had also reminded her of the good times we'd shared. Truthfully, seeing Olivia's blissful face now almost made me waver, especially when I saw her in her chosen wedding dress, her perfect figure, that angelic face, and particularly when she held the bouquet, looking at me with such deep affection. For a fleeting moment, my heart actually considered abandoning this whole revenge plot. But Olivia, oh Olivia, you shouldn't have. You really shouldn't have spoken your true thoughts aloud. Having changed in the wedding dress, Olivia stood before a huge, floor-length mirror. She hadn't asked anyone to open the dressing room curtain. She'd even dismissed the sales assistant. Little did she know, the curtain could block sight but not sound. Standing nearby, I heard everything clearly. "Baby, you must be happy for Mommy too. Mommy found someone who truly loves me. Believe me, this new daddy will be very good to you, help you grow up strong. But don't worry, baby, Mommy will definitely find a way to find your real father. Then, Mommy will take you back to his side. As for him—" Olivia didn't finish the sentence, but it was more than enough. A cold smirk flashed across my face, gone in an instant as the curtain was drawn back. Of course, I quickly composed my features. Looking at the radiant Olivia, I poured on the emotional validation, making her so happy she looked like she might float off the ground. After leaving the bridal shop, I also took Olivia to wedding planners and various wedding supply stores. It was late at night when we finally got home, but the smile on Olivia's face showed no signs of fading. She even proactively wrapped her arms around my neck and gave me a deep, passionate kiss. When I went into the kitchen to prepare dinner, Olivia even stopped me, insisting I should rest and let her take care of me. Watching Olivia willingly bustling about in the kitchen, I knew the time was right. My plan needed to move forward. And so, after dinner, while I was washing the dishes, I casually said, "By the way, Olivia, I need your ID." "My ID? What for?" Although Olivia asked, I detected no hint of suspicion in her voice. I knew this was the result of the first phase of my plan. "So," I said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, "remember that house we looked at a few days ago? I'm going to buy it. Even though it's our marital home, I want it to be in your name only." "Really?" Hearing my words, Olivia rushed over to me, ecstatic. After I confirmed it, Olivia was so excited she almost nodded immediately. But then, as if remembering something, she said, "Ben, wait a sec, let me look for it." With that, she turned and went back in her bedroom, closing the door behind her. This made me a little nervous. Worried that my plan might have a hitch, I crept closer. Sure enough, she was calling her best friend again. My heart leaped into my throat. Just as I suspected, Olivia was discussing my request for her ID with Chloe. I knew the first stage of my plan, gaining her trust, had definitely succeeded. Olivia had basically let her guard down with me. But that didn't mean her best friend wouldn't have her own opinions on the matter. I knew Chloe Davis was a smart woman. What if she spotted something unusual and warned Olivia? My next step would be derailed. And, to my disappointment, this time Olivia didn't have her phone on speaker. That meant, apart from Olivia's side of the conversation, I couldn't hear what Chloe was saying. So, with a sense of unease, I went back to the kitchen. By the time I'd finished washing all the dishes, Olivia emerged from her room. Watching her walk towards me, especially with that slight frown and a clearly unhappy expression, my heart instantly clenched. My mind raced through a dozen possibilities. I even quickly formulated a few excuses. But I never expected Olivia to say, almost pouting, "Honestly, if I didn't keep such a close eye on you, I'd think you had a thing with Chloe. Why does she keep praising you so much? Here, this is my ID, take it." Looking at Olivia's ID in my hand, the heart that had been lodged in my throat finally dropped back into my chest. But a new curiosity sparked within me. Olivia's best friend, Chloe. Something felt off about her. In my past life, she couldn't stand the sight of me. Now, this. Could it be that my actions toward Olivia had moved even her? It was certainly possible. Now that this crucial prop was in my hands, the very next day, I found that person. This was the person, or rather organization, I've been spending all those early mornings and late nights searching for. A loan agency. They had ways, using just an ID, to secure massive loans without the person needing to be present, sometimes without even a credit check. Of course, they could structure it all to be perfectly legal, meaning if the borrower later tried to renege and fight it in court, they wouldn't stand a chance. Finding this kind of organization had taken a ton of effort, but thankfully, all my previous hard work hadn't been in vain. I didn't borrow too much, though. Otherwise, if Olivia ended up with actual cash in hand, my plan wouldn't work. I used most of the loan money for the down payment on that house. The rest, I had no intention of spending on myself. It all went towards Olivia. Of course, I also had to set aside enough from these funds to cover the mortgage payments for the next few months. After all, until the final stage of my plan, I couldn't afford to carry those unnecessary expenses myself. Could I? And so, from that day on, even Olivia noticed her life became even better than before. Olivia became even more dependent on me, more affectionate. Visibly, Olivia's belly grew bigger day by day. But one evening, when I returned home, the house was dark. There was no sign of Olivia inside. I clearly remembered Olivia rarely went out after she started showing. Why wasn't she home today? Could it be Olivia's old flame was back? I honestly couldn't think of any other reason why Olivia would stay out all night under these circumstances. But in my memory, her old flame had never returned after disappearing that time. Could it be that my rebirth had triggered some kind of butterfly effect? But soon, I realized I was just scaring myself. Although the living room was dark, I saw Olivia's bedroom door was slightly ajar. And through the crack, I saw a dim, yellowish light flickering gently. Curiosity piqued, I slowly pushed open the bedroom door. But the moment the door swung open, the scene before me left me utterly stunned. The flickering light came from dozens of heart-shaped red candles. The bedroom floor was strewn with flower petals. And Olivia, She was right there, surrounded by the dancing candlelight. And at that moment, Olivia was wearing only a necklace. Lying on her side, propped up on the bed, Olivia saw me enter. She slowly extended one leg, beckoning me with a playful wiggle of her toes. HSSS. I couldn't help but suck in a sharp breath. Olivia was already gorgeous, and even now, pregnant, her figure hadn't changed drastically. Seeing her like this, if there wasn't a fire igniting in my chest, I'd be lying. But I bit down hard on my tongue, forcing myself to maintain some clarity. I coughed and said, "What are you doing? Don't catch a cold. You can't take cold medicine when you're pregnant." Just as I walked over, intending to be my usual caring self and cover Olivia with a blanket, I never expected her to directly use that same beckoning leg to hook around my neck. Then I heard her whisper, "I went to the doctor today. He said, I can now, moderately, with you." Olivia didn't continue, a shy blush on her face. "Ben, you're so good to me. It's very touching. I know you love me. So let me love you too." Honestly, when I came to my senses, I was stunned. I had, in a twisted way, gotten to his child before he ever could, asserted a primal, perverse claim. Looking at Olivia, now sound asleep beside me, and her slightly protruding belly, a sudden wave of nausea churned my stomach. I clamped a hand over my mouth and bolted for the bathroom. I immediately took a long shower, but I still felt like I couldn't wash the filth off. And from that day on, Olivia became even clingier. At night, she'd insist on snuggling into my bed. However, I refused all her advances. Maybe I just couldn't get over that mental block. As time went on, Olivia's belly grew larger and larger, and she stopped making those demands. I then began the routine of taking Olivia to the hospital every few days. I booked her appointments with the most expensive specialists, found the best doctors, hired the most expensive private nurses. We used the best equipment, the best private rooms, and I ensured Olivia received the best care. I even gave generous tips to everyone involved, making sure they treated Olivia with A.V.I.P.S. reverence. The other pregnant women at the hospital all envied Olivia for having such a genuinely devoted husband like me. Most importantly, a husband who was generous and willing to spend money on her. And Olivia, in front of these women, always held her head high, never once looking down. But how could they know I never spent a dime of my own money on Olivia? One day, as I was returning with Olivia's latest test results, a woman's figure suddenly blocked my path. Her sudden appearance surprised me. It was Olivia's best friend, Chloe Davis. I concealed my inner coldness and feigned surprise. "Chloe, you're here? Great. Can you go keep Olivia company? She's just..." But before I could finish, Chloe grabbed my arm and spun me around, pulling me away. Completely bewildered, I let Chloe lead me down the hospital corridor. When we reached a quiet spot, she turned to me, her voice dramatically hushed but intense. "Ben, are you crazy? What good does doing all this for that woman do for you?" Hearing this, I paused. Chloe's urgent, angry demeanor really did make it seem like she was outraged on my behalf. But inwardly, I just sneered. This Chloe was probably just testing me for her dear friend Olivia. Things had come this far. I couldn't afford to blow my cover now. So, I deliberately said, "Chloe, what are you talking about? I genuinely love Olivia." "But she doesn't love you." Chloe's voice was firm. She immediately pulled out her phone, opened an audio file. The recording date was yesterday. She hit play, and Olivia's voice filled the air. "Chloe, don't worry, my feelings for him won't change. But, until I find him again, I'll play the part of Ben's wife very well." It was Olivia's voice, no doubt. Hearing it didn't surprise me at all. It was pure Olivia. But I feigned outrage. "Don't think you can change my feelings for Olivia with some fake audio. You don't deserve to be Olivia's best friend." After saying this, I turned to leave. But unexpectedly, Chloe relentlessly grabbed my arm again, looking deeply into my eyes, and said, "The day after you died, I died too." Chloe's words hit me like a sledgehammer, making my brain buzz. She looked at me and let out a small sigh of relief. "Looks like I was right. You were reborn too. You were reborn too." Those 4 words instantly turned my second chance into some kind of over-the-top melodrama. Chloe told me her story. The day after I died in our previous life, Olivia had invited her over. As soon as Chloe walked in, she saw me lying on the bed, my body already showing post-mortem stains. She immediately tried to call the police, but Olivia knocked her out. The last thing Chloe remembered before she died was Olivia, completely unhinged, attacking her with a kitchen knife, screaming, "It's all your fault. If you hadn't told Ben to be such a good simp, he wouldn't have made me abort my baby with him. You're an accomplice. You're a sinner. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you." As she explained, Chloe actually started to cry. I never thought she'd think that. At the time, I just felt sorry for her. Everything I did was for her sake. Looking at the weeping Chloe, I took a deep breath and said coolly, "Am I supposed to interpret those as crocodile tears?" Hearing my words, Chloe roughly wiped her tears away. "I know you hate me, but we have a common enemy now, and I help a lot in making her trust you so much. When I heard you wanted her ID, I actually thought you were finally going to get your revenge. But then you seem to love her even more? Ben, what's wrong with you? You're not doing this because you're afraid of dying again, are you?" Afraid of dying? I'd already died once. What was there to be afraid of? I looked at Chloe calmly and said slowly, "And how do you know? How do you really know what I've actually been doing?" From that moment on, this Chloe, she genuinely became my teammate. I briefly told Chloe my plan. Because Chloe was right, we now shared a common enemy. And from that very moment, the people around Olivia, besides me, now included Chloe. In the months leading up to Olivia's delivery, she experienced the most meticulous care from her lover and her best friend. She even remarked more than once, "I feel like I'm dreaming. You guys are too good to me. Thank you." Little did she know, behind the smiling masks of the two people closest to her were the pale, death-stained faces of the dead. Soon, Olivia went into labor. Chloe and I, naturally, took her to the best hospital, secured the most luxurious delivery suite. Olivia and that man's child was born safely. While Olivia was still groggy from the anesthesia, Chloe and I immediately arranged for a paternity test. The moment that DNA test, confirming I had no biological connection to the child, was in my hand, the loans I'd taken out in Olivia's name were now fully her burden, with payments due. And I, through Chloe, sent copies of that paternity report to everyone Olivia knew. I even taped one to the headboard of Olivia's hospital bed. Then, Chloe and I vanished from Olivia's world. Later, Chloe learned from Olivia's other acquaintances what happened. When Olivia regained full consciousness, she was faced with a mountain of bills from the delivery, and she couldn't scrape together a dime. She searched frantically for me, for Chloe, but there was no trace of us. At that point, Olivia finally realized she'd been scammed. Chloe even delivered one final blow, something we planned. We had specifically taken a set of very passionate, intimate photos of ourselves together. Chloe picked the most explicit one and sent it to Olivia. Apparently, Olivia had a hysterical meltdown in the hospital, accusing me of being a scumbag, threatening to expose me online. But everyone in the hospital room, the doctors and nurses, saw the paternity test taped to her bed. All they showed her was cold indifference. Later, when the debt collectors came calling, Olivia finally learned about the loans. All the money I'd spent on her over the past few months had been borrowed in her name. And the repayment deadline? It was precisely her delivery date. The house was repossessed by the creditors. She was left with a massive debt she had no way of repaying. What happened after that, I don't know. It wasn't until 2 years later that I returned to this city. Just as I walked out of the airport, a red Porsche pulled up in front of me. Chloe was behind the wheel. We looked at each other and smiled. I got into the passenger seat. She immediately tossed a newspaper onto my lap. The headline was about Olivia's old flame being sentenced. I chuckled. "Why are you showing me this? This is like the second time I've seen this news, right?" Who knew Chloe would just give a slight laugh and say, "Who said this was for you?" Puzzled, I watched as Chloe drove us to a rundown apartment complex in a rough part of town. From a distance, by a dumpster, I saw a familiar figure. The figure had a makeshift sling fashioned from rags on her back, and inside it was an emaciated child. She was rummaging desperately through the trash. Chloe deliberately slowed the car, lowering the window, and I, my face in a motionless mask, slowly tossed the newspaper out of the car. I even heard a hoarse voice say, "Thank you." But just before the window rolled all the way up, I heard a heart-wrenching scream.